Hi everyone. This video is going to be about self-hypnosis and how to utilize it to aid in your transition. You can use these techniques for yourself to perhaps help with your transition and get to where you want to be. While this is primarily directed towards male to females, if you are a female to male, you can simply just change some of the pronouns and visuals to match your desired outcome. Not everyone believes in hypnosis, but when you actually experience it and see the results, you see just how real it actually is. In a sense, it's a lot like the placebo effect, where you are not really doing anything except believing suggestions, and that's what it's all about. Being able to dissociate your mind, enter your subconscious, and give yourself positive affirmations and suggestions that you accept as true. Envision who you want to be and become that person. I have a video all about dissociation and hypnosis, as well as one about positive affirmations, so I will have an annotation and a link in the description. As a bit of background, I am very suggestible. I've been able to dissociate quite easily, give myself suggestions, and then come out of the state believing those suggestions. And I like to play around with this at times since I've gotten quite good at it. With repeated attempts, it gets easier and easier, and you are able to utilize the ability more effectively to positively change your life. I utilized hypnosis heavily during the phase of my transition prior to hormones and prior to living full-time. It allowed me to get into the mindset and develop more feminine characteristics. I think hypnosis helped tremendously with my transition, and I would not be the same if I never did it. Now, I've said before that I will have some guided meditations and hypnosis videos in the future, and I do plan on doing them, but when, I don't know. At some point down the road, I will have them. Anyway, there are a variety of things you will need to work on if you want the hypnosis to be effective. Number one being is to learn to relax. This is the core principle of hypnosis. If you are unable to relax and are tense, then that may prevent you from fully utilizing the power of hypnosis. Another crucial step is to release the fears associated with transitioning and accepting the person you were always meant to be. This is where you will identify who your inner female is and then learn to release any resistance or doubts that are preventing you from positively focusing on your goals of becoming her. Then comes the feminization process of feminizing the mind, body, sexuality, anything and everything you wish to change. Remember, take it slowly and only do things you are comfortable with. The first stage is to learn to relax. You will not get anywhere until you learn to relax yourself. I have a video that goes into much greater detail, which I'll have an annotation and a link in the description. Find what relaxes you and keep practicing letting go of stress, tension, and anxiety so you can relax your mind and body and enter your subconscious to give yourself suggestions. Once you can relax, it's time to analyze who you are and where you want to be with your transition. In other words, who is the female you that wants to come out and make her presence known? Who is she and what does she want? Understand her on a deep level so you can know where you want to be with your transition. Plan things out, think it through, and discover what you really want to do to be this female that is trying to express herself. At the same time, you need to learn to release the fears and resistance associated with transitioning. I have a video about releasing fears and resistance as well, so I'll have an annotation and a link in the description. But anyway, Before transitioning, you may have great fear of expressing this female side of you. Main reason being is that you may not feel as though you can pass as a female, or that people would not treat you well, like an outcast. Whatever it is, this is where you need to identify it and let go of it. The reason being, when you can let go of that negative attachment you have and instead focus on a positive outcome, then things will manifest in your life to get you to that positive point in your life where you will have those things you imagined. In other words, by having fears and attachments to a negative outcome you envision, you are preventing yourself from being focused on your positive goals and are essentially limiting yourself from the positive outcome that can manifest if you were to release those fears and attachments. It can be difficult to let go of those fears since transitioning is a life-changing process. I know for me personally, I still had fears and doubts despite how much I would focus on where I wanted to be. But at the same time, I knew in the back of my mind that I would pass and would be happy with the woman I became. And as it turned out, I became the person I envisioned when I transitioned, which made me happy. Of course, things would not always turn out exactly as you envision, and you may always find things about yourself and your body to criticize, even after transitioning and surgeries. But you can see how life manifested those positive things for you just by you positively focusing on your goals and where you want to be. I know for me, I felt as though my entire transition was quick and easy. Now, of course, transitioning is never easy, but I felt as though things went very smoothly and quick for me. I pushed through it and focused on where I wanted to be, and ultimately got to that point and became that female I envisioned in my mind. So after you have discovered your inner woman and learned to relax and release fears and resistance, it's time to start the feminization process. The next step is the feminization process. This is where you can change things like hormones, face, voice, breasts, anything you wish to physically change. But on top of that, your frame of mind, mannerisms, and sexuality. Anything you wish to change and then accept the person you will soon become. For those of you that have experienced the power of hypnosis, you may know just how possible it is to change these things with thought alone. It is possible if you believe it is. When you have doubt, then you must return to step 1 to release that resistance and doubt. Then you can move on to the step where you will give yourself suggestions to change in the way you want. There are tons of audio recordings that will aid you in this department if you search YouTube or look around the internet. But regardless, essentially what you want to do is relax and release any attachments you have. Then you focus on something you wish to change and you envision it changing to how you want it to be. And you repeat positive affirmations in your mind or out loud. So for instance, if you wanted to change your facial structure to be more feminine, you would envision in your mind your jawline, chin, brow bone, anything else on your face slowly changing to that of a female. When you imagine this, you may physically feel it as well, and that is another sign that it is working in your favor. You can even look in the mirror and do the same. See your face reshape to that of a female and see your face as feminine. And then you would repeat positive suggestions to yourself such as, my face looks feminine, I have female facial structure, I am happy with my female face, those sorts of things. You do not want to use not in your affirmation as that creates resistance. It should be positive and focused on your goals using the present tense. It may not manifest the way you think it might. What I mean is, you may not see your face really change shape, but several other things could happen. Perhaps your perception of your face will become less harsh. You begin to accept the way your face looks and see it as feminine, despite the fact that it never actually changed. Your face may change a little when on hormones and wearing your hair certain ways. And another thing that may happen is you unexpectedly acquire money that can pay for facial feminization surgery. What I'm trying to say is that it doesn't always guide you the way you think it might. It can, many times, be unpredictable. And this is because there's never a clear path to your goals. One of the most useful things I did was to envision my ideal female self and become her. Essentially, what I did was relax myself and enter my subconscious. I approached a door that entered into a small, dark room. I imagined a bright white light coming down from the ceiling, and inside the light was the female I was always meant to be. I started with the feet and slowly worked up my entire body, focusing on every little detail and how I wanted my ideal female body to be. Then I stepped into the light and became her. I looked down at my body and in the mirror that was in the room and was very happy with how I looked because it was the body I was always meant to have. Another technique I did was imagine myself in a forest with a path that led up to a hill. On top of the hill was a female, which was me. I slowly approached this hill and went up the path towards her, watching how she presented herself. When I reached the top of the hill, I would have a conversation with her and continue to observe everything about her. I knew she was me. She was the female that was inside me that needed to be let out. After a short while of observing and talking with her, I became her. We merged into one, and I was her and she was me. I was now this female that was trapped inside. She was let out. Then I began walking down the hill on the path and returned to the starting point where I would wake up from the hypnosis. I successfully met and became the woman that was deep inside me that needed to come out and express herself. Another thing I did was go back in my life to the moment I was born and rewrite my past. What I did was reflect back on my life as a male, working back towards the moment I was born and even prior to that. When I was as far back as I could go, I saw myself form into a female and be born as a girl instead of a boy. I watched my life go by as if I was a female. I saw how things would have been different and how happy I was. Everything that led up to the point where I wanted to be. Of course, I could have been depressed by the fact that my life wasn't actually like this, but I focused on my positive goals of becoming that woman instead of obsessing over what could have been. I was happy seeing my life go by as a female. Regarding hormones, I would imagine in my mind my testosterone levels decreasing and my estrogen levels increasing. Then I imagined the effects of estrogen and the changes it would bring to my body, and it would make me very happy. Of course, I have no way of determining if anything changed in my body, but that is not the point. It made me happy and feel more feminine. Using hypnosis to aid with your transition can be highly beneficial when you can relax, release fears and resistance, and give yourself positive suggestions to become the female that you have always been on the inside. Whatever you choose to incorporate into your life and focus your attention on, you will have as long as you continue to stay determined and be patient. I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching.